everybody, it's Mike Jeffers, ChicagoJazz.com, Chicago Jazz Magazine, and welcome to a special Chicago Jazz Fest preview. We are here with Frank Catalano at one of his local coffee houses here outside. It's a beautiful day. We're going to preview his performance at the Chicago Jazz Festival coming up August 31st, 3 p.m. on the Jazz and Heritage stage. Frank, you're back on the fest. You haven't been there in a while. I know you've been traveling and doing a ton of stuff, so I'm glad scheduling worked out well.
I'm very stoked. This is going to be super fun. And yeah, I haven't done the Chicago Jazz Festival for 20 years. Me and Von Freeman did it together in '99 when we did our album for Delmark. So very excited to be back on the festival.
Yeah, I mean, you actually, was that the first time you were on there? Were you on there with Charles Earland too at some point, or no?
I played a bunch of festivals with Charles Earland, but not the Chicago Jazz Festival.
Oh, okay, all right. So you're on with your own quartet or quintet?
Yeah, quartet. John Rutan's playing piano, Greg Geary's playing bass, and Mike Clark is flying in from New York to play drums. Mike does pretty much all my New York shows, like at Birdland coming up, and the last 20 shows at Birdland, and is my bro. And actually, we have a really nice DW drum kit still boxed up in my living room right now that Sona would like to get out. So thanks to DW for sending a nice drum kit that we'll be gentle with.
That is now sitting in your living room.
Yes.
All right, well, that's nice of them. So 3 p.m., Jazz and Heritage Stage. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Chicago Jazz Fest and when you were there with Von Freeman. That's when you guys put out the recording. What was the name of the recording again?
You Talking to Me.
That's right.
And it was a fun one. We actually recorded it before we played the Jazz Festival, maybe like 3 or 4 months prior. And the personnel was slightly different. Larry Novak played on the recording. John Campbell played piano on the festival. Joel Spencer played drums on both. So, I mean, those were good times, and it was funny because 20 years have gone by so fast, I don't even know what to say.
Man, oh man.
Time is flying.
Yeah, time's flying. But the Jazz Fest, 3 p.m., 3 p.m., Jazz and Heritage Pavilion. So let's talk a little bit about what they're going to hear. Now, you've put out, 5, 6, 7, 10 different recordings or more probably since the last time you played there.
Yeah.
You're playing all over town, obviously, when you're in town, doing the Green Mill hits late night on Wednesday night / Thursday mornings. And everywhere in between. I know you got Andy stuff. You've got a weekend coming up, I think, with Jimmy Chamberlain maybe at the Green Mill coming up in the fall. You've got the St. Charles Jazz Fest, which we'll touch on shortly. But talk a little bit on what people are going to hear on this specific performance, because I know from playing with you over the years too, is that your performance is usually a little bit longer than like 50 minutes.
Yeah, this is going to be a condensed powerhouse set for sure. But Mike Clark played on a lot of those famous Herbie Hancock albums in the 70s, like Thrust, and is pretty powerhouse drummer. So I definitely think we're going to keep it high energy and fun. I've written some new stuff that isn't on any recordings yet, so we're definitely going to do some things that I've written over the last few months, and debut a couple songs, and for sure standards that I like to play. I used to always play with Von Freeman, Bye Bye Blackbird, and I did the album with Jimmy Chamberlain and Dave Sanborn called Bye Bye Blackbird about 2 years ago, so we'll definitely do like at least 1 or 2 standards. It is also tough when you're all stretching out and playing. Songs tend to be, 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Right,
so I'm trying to make sure that we have a proper amount of tunes. So I guess we could have 4 stretching out tunes, or probably 10 a little bit more condensed tunes. So I think we'll probably keep it around 10 tunes.
So people have to show up and see Frank alter his set, because when he starts taking a solo and he's got 10 tunes on the set list and they're telling him to wrap up after 5, you're going to hear either 5 really fast tunes, or
I think we'll just play everything double time, and then we can cram more stuff in.
This one's a ballad, folks, and it's just cooking. Okay, that would be worth it right there.
I think that would be fun. You've given me some new ideas.
See, well, I'm full of great ideas. See, all right. So let's talk a little bit too. I mean, you grew up in Chicago, and I know you've been down at the Chicago Jazz Fest before. And in the past years, your schedule's been crazy, so I know it's been tough to even be able to get locked in to do a slot over there. But you've been touring, you've been all over Europe, you've been everywhere. How's the Chicago Jazz Fest compared to some other festivals in the world? I mean,
not only because I'm a native Chicagoan, but it's a great lineup this year, and it's going to be real fun. And yet, we did have another festival offer for the same day, but because I really wanted to do the Chicago Jazz Fest, and I think it's such a great festival, made it happen. I think we're really flying from Lucerne to New York to here back to New York. So it's going to be a crazy week. So, but we'll get it done. We have one show in Switzerland, Lucerne, and we have one show in France. So end of August going into September is just kind of it's going to be good times, but I hope my body holds up. I hope my lip holds up.
Yeah, well, and then also we should talk a little bit, because then 2 weeks after the Chicago Jazz Fest locally, you're going to be at the St. Charles Jazz Fest, which you've been
Yep.
at for many years now, and you're doing
I love the St. Charles Jazz.
you're doing your regular Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Saturday. So you got 4 gigs in 3 days at the St. Charles Jazz Fest. In addition, you're also doing Riot Fest on Friday with the Violent Femmes. So you've got a jam-packed weekend. So let's talk a little bit about the St. Charles Jazz Fest too, since we're talking about all the local festivals. You're at the Filling Station,
Yep.
Station on Thursday, September 12th.
Yep.
And then you're at House Pub, great
Yep.
spot that you're always at. Your buddy
Yep.
owns that, Steve.
Yep.
So that's Friday, the September 13th, and then Saturday, September 14th at night. And then you're also at First Street Plaza, the outdoor event space that they created a couple of years ago, where they have live music in the afternoon outside, and your hits at 4:30 on that day on Saturday. So you've got like a jam-packed weekend over there too.
Yeah, and it's going to be super fun. Last year was the first year that I did the First Street Pavilion area, and it was super fun. And so this will be my second time doing it outside. But I mean, every year for I think the last like 7 or 8 years, I've been very honored and fortunate to be a part of St. Charles Jazz Festival, because I've got a lot of friends and family out there, and everyone's so nice, and it's always a really great time.
Well, it's also one of the only times you actually play out there that much. Every once in a while you'll do a hit at the House Pub here and there, because you're really good friends with the owner, but usually you're not out there. So it's nice, and people have a lot of options to go. And there's also, especially on the afternoon, well, the Filling Station, and then also that First Street Plaza is open to all ages.
Mhm.
So, you know, the kids can come out, young band kids, everybody that's into
Yep.
jazz that's under 21 can come out and check you out, which is not normal, because they
Yep.
can't usually get into the Green Mill at 2 o'clock in the morning.
It's true, and
know.
in the House Pub, like you say, you had to be 21 to get in.
Yeah.
So it's nice to play, Filling Station and the outside plaza area, because I know for sure last year when I did it, there was a bunch of kids, 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, and that made me real happy, because seeing young kids getting into jazz is really cool. And then Filling Station's always nice. I've met so many nice people there that were maybe like 17 or 18 that are now in their mid-20s that are able to come and hang out. My student Nick and a bunch of people that I've become good friends with. So I've met at the Filling Station on these days. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, and you also give back a lot too, because I mean, you're traveling and doing a lot of these touring things, playing the different jazz festivals, playing clubs, but you also do a lot of clinics.
Yeah.
So I mean, that part of giving back and teaching the younger students is something that actually what you got when you were growing up. So you're kind of giving it back at that point too.
I know we mentioned Von Freeman in regards to the Chicago Jazz Festival, but he helped me so much, and if in some tiny little way I can also influence some young musicians, that makes me real happy. And yeah, I always love doing clinics. I don't have time to teach too much anymore, so I don't teach at any colleges regularly like I used to. So I feel like also the clinics are a good way to be teaching and having fun, but have a flexible schedule too, so it's not interfering with concerts and stuff. So I feel like I've struck a cool balance at the moment, so we'll see
Yeah.
how long that
Well, and also I think, because you did do some college things, and you used to teach private lessons out of your studio and all that stuff, but with the amount of traveling that you're doing now, you have a lot more to give back to students that maybe they wouldn't get from a regular teacher. So if somebody wants to come to one of your clinics, they're getting a different perspective probably, because you're doing all of these other things with the travel aspect and playing all over the place and recording and everything. Then maybe a really good teacher is locked in playing in town. So
Right.
it's nice because a student can get both sides of it. And then of course they can come up to you at one of your gigs and just say hi. And you'll talk to them for 25 minutes without any problem anyway. So,
I love blabbing.
All right, so just to close this entire thing out, there's ample places for you to go see Frank Catalano here between August 31st and September 14th. Plus, he's got a bunch of shows coming up in the fall that you have to check out, and all the information's at catalanomusic.com. Of course, 3 p.m., August 31st, Frank Catalano Quartet Jazz and Heritage Stage at the Chicago Jazz Festival. I'll be there. I'll be down in the Wrigley Square area with a whole booth set up, doing interviews there all weekend, so stop by and say hi to me. And of course, you can see more information and more videos and more podcasts at chicagojazz.com. Frank, thanks for sitting down.
Thanks, Mike.
We got to finish our coffee here. It's a beautiful afternoon here in the beautiful town of Chicago.
The coffee is finally kicking in,
Is
too.
it?
So I'm, after the late night green mill last night, glad the coffee's kicking in.
Hey,
so.
you sounded good. You sounded like you've been up for
No.
at least 20 minutes.
Hey, it was probably more like 25, so we're doing good. So.
All right, of course, everybody check out all the information. He's got a bunch of shows coming up, catalanomusic.com, and we will see you at the Chicago Jazz Fest. He will see you at the September St. Charles Jazz Fest, and if we don't see you somewhere, hopefully we'll see you somewhere out on the scene.